Perdition by Lengsfeld. The screech of a high, circling hawk reached me as I stared fixedly on the small hole tunneling into the earth before me. A fat fly droned lazily past my ear and shortly returned to investigate my efforts. It clumsily struck my head several times before landing in my hair and advancing to my cheek. I remained stoic, and I did not allow the distraction to interfere with my focus. The blue-bottle fly cleaned itself and moved slowly to the side of my nose. Each step pricked holes into my attention. It wandered to the back of my neck, and I succumbed to its distraction and shook my head slightly to urge the intruder away. With my focal point no longer centered, the heat of the sun on my back intruded into my awareness. A single drop of perspiration trickled down between my shoulder blades and broke my concentration completely. The memory of what had brought me to this place tumbled through my head. Although I had heard countless times about the danger these burrowing little vermin posed to cattle and horses, I had never seen any stock ever so injured. I had long ago fallen into believing that whatever I was told must be true. Earlier in the week, as so often before, I trailed my older brother into the pasture to shoot gophers. The resounding crack of the rimfire single-shot .22 in the quiet field always preceded the excitement of running to check whether his aim had been true or not. My brother extolled his marksmanship when it resulted in a still, brown, bloodied form. When the chase came up empty, he invariably blamed it on the inadequacies of the old rifle, expressing with colorful curses the necessity of purchasing something more accurate. I had often asked, begged, pleaded, and whined to the best of my ability for an opportunity to fire the ancient weapon. My brother consistently rejected every effort I brought forward. Our father's admonitions about me being too young and my mother's strident fears about safety were not lost on him. He relished his wielding of this minor tyranny over me as I stewed in my frustration and humiliation. The comfortable warmth of late morning was now rising to a furnace-like level as the sun climbed into its noon-hour position in the clear, blue prairie sky. A metallic taste in my mouth and a hint of minor nausea reminded me how thirsty I was. The ever-present wind stopped. The swish of the choreographed grass ceased and was replaced with a loud silence. In the distance, the hawk made its presence known by screeching once more. The bird's call was answered by the lazy clacking of grasshopper wings nearby. I refocused on the string snare I had placed round the gopher hole and got back to business. Embarrassed by my lack of years, I was determined to add my efforts to the eradication of these dangerous, burrowing vermin. In an earlier effort, I had hauled several heavy buckets of water to pour into a gopher hole near the house. The result was not what I had envisioned. After pouring what seemed like countless buckets down the insatiable hole, I found exhaustion to be my single reward. I slept soundly that night, but frustration punctuated every corner of my slumber. The cropped stalks of grass began to make themselves known through my shirt. What sensations I had easily overlooked previously grew into searing points that seemed to demand entry into my skin. The metallic taste in my mouth grew more insistent. I stiffened as I felt under my pant leg and up to the back of my leg. Every small distraction possible was trying to draw me away from my self-assigned task, and my determination to complete it grew. A cloud drifted across the sun, and a gentle breeze sprang up. I was grateful for the temporary coolness. A meadowlark's song was answered by the hawk's screech as I lay motionless and refocused on my snare. A sudden hint of activity at the mouth of the dark hole caused me to snap back on the string in surprise. I felt the weight of my prize on the end of the line, and I saw the small brown body sailing in an arc through the air. I knew instantly that I had heaved too hard. I heard the heavy thunk of the landing over the sound of my pounding heart. I scrambled from my prone position and pulled the string to hold my captive tight. I had done it. Blood continued to pound in my ears as my lungs heaved with excitement. The vermin squealed in terror as it pulled against the restraining twine encircling its neck. I held the snare more tightly and placed a foot tentatively on my prize. The adrenaline ebbed, and my heart and breathing slowed. The small limbs flailed at empty air as I decided what to do next. The thought of simply crushing the rodent flashed through my mind. The piteous squeal continued, unabated. With another look at the desperate scratching ground squirrel underfoot, I knew I could not carry out the thought. Standing alone with my prize, I fumbled through my mind for what to do next. The pinioned ball of fur let up none of its efforts in trying to escape. I felt pity rise up in myself. Reaching into my overalls, I retrieved the pocket knife I always kept there. Kneeling in the grass, I opened it with my teeth. I moved the honed edge towards the helpless prisoner's neck. In a last act of desperate bravery, the tiny form twisted its head and bared its long, biting incisors. With a deft flick of my wrist, I made an effective cut and lifted my foot from the prostrate body. The small prairie inhabitant lay still for a startled moment. I watched as my prize suddenly and quickly scampered back into the cool, dark refuge of its burrow. Useless twine still tightly held in my hand, I remained rooted and motionless, staring into the silence. A mixture of nausea and pride, disappointment and relief washed through me. I walked clumsily into the tall grass a little ways off from the burrow and flopped face forward into its embrace. Breathing in the green scent of the bruised grass, I slowly rolled over onto my back and joined my hands behind my head. Looking wide-eyed into a sky I could not see, I waited for my heart and stomach to settle. The circling hawk's shadow flitted across me. Although its cry seemed mocking, a self-satisfied smile began to grow on my face.